From the surface, the ocean in the 21st century probably looks much the same as it did 10,000 or 100,000 or a million years ago. It's what's under the surface that is changing. Some of the changes are good. Some of them terrifyingly not good. Half the coral reefs are gone or a state of decline. 90% of the sharks that have been around for hundreds of millions of years as a category of life, really because of us, our appetite for them as products or to eat. We're really good at finding, capturing, and marketing ocean wildlife. The biggest wildlife trade on the planet is what we call seafood. Well, we used to take birds on a commercial scale by the truckload, but we kind of got over that we are now looking at wildlife on the land with new respect and understanding that unless we care for them, we will be those who are responsible for losing them. The same is happening under the surface, but most people aren't aware because they're not down there. The collapse of many species of fish, tuna, swordfish, cod, herring. Here's where they were when I was a child. Here's where they are today. And it's across the board. Anything that we put our sights on for marketing has a trajectory of collapse because we're so good at finding, capturing, and marketing them until they're gone, either directly or through the impact on the system as a whole. We're losing. Presently, it looks as though we're on a trajectory of losing about 1 million species by the end of this century. That's land and sea, but we don't really know how many creatures have been lost in the sea and are on a trajectory because of the magnitude of what we don't know. We've only mapped maybe 20% of the ocean floor with the same kind of accuracy that we have for the moon, for Mars, for Jupiter, and for the rest of the terrestrial part of Earth. Why? It's a little hard to get there. And the methods we use for mapping the moon and Mars, even though they're much further away than even the maximum depth of the sea, which is 11 kilometers, about 7 miles down, it's that water in between that makes the methods that we use going in the other direction just not possible. We have to use sonar, using sound to be able to map the ocean floor. There are some other means that are becoming available, but we just haven't cared about why we should do this. Now we're beginning to care, partly because there are mighty forces still around that want to exploit the ocean, to take even more minerals, more wildlife, the fleets of ships that are out there to just take squid. People don't know. They see squid on the menu or octopus and they think it's fine, it's on the menu. They don't know why they should care. Knowing is the key to caring. You can know and not care, but you really can't wrap your mind around why you should care if you don't know. I think the great news is that since the middle of the 20th century, 1950 is kind of a marking point if you have to draw a line, we have learned more about who we are, where we come from, where we could be going. We have developed technologies to be able to go further, high in the sky, and deeper into the sea than any of our predecessors. This is a moment of being able to communicate as never before, develop systems that enable us to crunch numbers, to gather information, to look for patterns. It's just scaling up on an immense way what we now know that we could not know. The smartest people who ever lived before in 1950s, like Einstein, just take one example, Copernicus, who do you think of as great minds? They just did not know that life exists in the deepest parts of the ocean. They did not know how deep the ocean was. We still have a little bit of uncertainty. Where's the deepest place in the ocean? There are people who are kind of fighting over where's the deepest place? Where's the highest mountain? We can measure that to within millimeters. but we don't know so much of the basic information, starting with who lives there. We're looking for life elsewhere in the universe. What about life in this part of the universe? We know how to destroy before we even understand. Deep sea mining is poised to do just that. This immense diversity of life in the deep sea and in the water column. We're good at saying, well, we need this or we need that, or some justification that there's a market for it. But we've not been good at accounting for two things: the known cost and the unknown cost. Known cost to basic things like how much carbon are we taking out of the ocean and the climate impacts of that. How much of the known life are we destroying and what the impacts of that might be. But then there's this X factor, the magnitude of what we don't know. It's probably the biggest discovery about the ocean of all time, the magnitude of what we don't know. You find a little bit here, a little bit there, and we connect the dots, and a little bit more here, and we've never done it better than now. What about all these other things, like the creatures? Jane Goodall changed the way we think about our fellow primates, especially chimpanzees, because she spent years getting to know that one species, day and night, discovered language, families, culture, caring, things that you can't measure if you're just looking at dead bodies. And the same is true in the ocean. What do we know about squid, octopus, fish, whales? It's only after we stopped killing whales for meat and oil that we really began to take a long look at who they are and what do they know and how do they navigate over thousands of miles with no GPS. It's all in their head. How do they sense the ocean around them? Their body is immersed in the chemistry of life itself. We need to show a little humility as we think we are masters not just of Earth but of the universe. If we're as smart as we think we are, half as smart as we think we are, we'll show some humility and use our mighty powers to show humility for what we don't know, understanding what we don't understand, and make our attitude for nature and behave toward nature accordingly. Elephants, they have so much that we can learn from, how they communicate, how they travel over long distances. Again, no map except what they have here. No way of using cell phones or satellites, but they can communicate over miles with their deep, low voices that only they can hear. We can't. Well, many other things can, but we are not tuned in. Knowing our ignorance is a breakthrough. And I think this is the best time ever because of what we know, but also respecting what we don't know. I think the children of the 21st century are the luckiest, the best hope. But for them, consider what they know when they're 10 years old that no one could know when I was a child. No one had been to space looking back at Earth from afar. The existence of the microbes that are part of us, DNA, RNA, the elements of life, that came later. But the children of today have a jump start over anybody who's ever lived in the times past. So that is in itself cause for hope, because with knowing comes caring, and with caring there is hope that we can make it through this tight spot that we're now experiencing when Earth is on a decline of the very elements that make Earth habitable. We need to have appropriate amounts of oxygen being generated, carbon being captured, the cycles of life continuing. It's the passage of the elements of life that we have disrupted through our destruction of nature on land and in the sea. Imagine if we didn't know. Imagine if the kids were still as as uninformed as I was as a child. They are excited. If they aren't, they certainly should be, because of the best chance we will ever have to safeguard ourselves while safeguarding nature, life on Earth.